Councilmember Mike Blackham, who will then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, for my opening tonight, I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about the Hill legislature's in session right now. And what I wanted to kind of talk about was we belong to an organization called the Utah Leagues of Cities and Towns. And I think they get a bad rap sometimes because there are right now almost 400 bills that are numbered and coming through that involve these cities dramatically. I don't know how any one person could even attempt to track these bills. But this staff of the Utah Leagues of Cities and Towns, they actually, the best thing I could say is they're our lobbyists, and they're the city's lobbyists. And Cameron Deal, I believe, is the president of that, or what his title is, chairman. But they are so involved in meeting with those legislators and meeting with the cities. And the cities all have 3 voting members of the city that belong to the Utah Leagues of Cities and Towns. We're lucky we get 4 because our mayor is also on their board. But myself and Councilmember Jackson and our city manager are the other voting members. And the only reason I think we're is because our work schedules allow us to be able to go to the meetings and stuff, you know. But believe me, the rest of the council is involved. Abby's always watching online. Our council member, sorry. But I just want to say Cameron is so vested, and his people are so vested during this legislative session. His 2 little girls have what they call a paper chain. It's got 45 rings on it, and each day they cut one of them off because they know when that chain's done, they're going to get their dad back. But there are so many bills that go up on the Hill that cities would have no idea what they are and how they affect. Tonight we have a consent item on our agenda. This consent item is where we're partnering with some other cities to provide building inspections. If one city can't provide a building inspection within 3 days, then one of the other cities can provide that inspector and help out that city if they get inundated or something. If you would have seen how that bill originally came out, that contractors would just be able to hire their own inspectors. Well, that kind of takes away that third-party protection that people expect the city to provide when they take out a building permit. That's just one example. There's another bill right now that's proposed that talks about, a couple of years ago, they approved interior accessory dwelling units. People don't realize that probably, but every single home that has a lot that's at least 6,000 square feet or more in the state of Utah can actually move another family in their home. And there's nothing in any ordinance, there's nothing that says they can't do that. One of the things that was in that bill was the fact that they had to be owner occupied. Well, there's a new bill coming out that's proposing taking away the owner occupancy that would literally make every single home that's over 6,000 square feet, the lot is a duplex in Utah. Well, we don't want that as cities. We want to retain the ability to do our own zoning and our own stuff. If we did not have the Utah Leagues and Cities and Towns working for us, and I have to say, you know, they get a bad rap, but they take a neutral position, but they get to know these legislators very, very well, and they're able to get in and meet with them, where I don't think that individual council members and mayors and city managers would get the same ability to go meet with these people. There are so many bills that come through the legislature, and if they didn't have lobbyists like the Utah Leagues of Cities and Towns that met with cities weekly, we get a nightly email from them, looking at the best interest of the people in the cities. And I'm sure these legislators think what they're doing is the right thing, and they think that the bill they're running through. But it takes the Utah Leagues and Cities and Towns to bring those bills out and bring them to the cities and say, hey, no, this isn't a good bill. And a lot of times cities find out that we're not doing things the way we should be, and we do learn a lot from them, and things get changed. But I don't know any one person or any one council that could spend the time like they do and their staff and the protections that we get by belonging to them. It would be overwhelming. And to think that every legislator actually goes through and reads every bill and knows what all 400 of them say, that ain't happening either. But they're looking over there to see how their neighbor's voting. And that's a lot of times that's how the vote goes. But if we didn't have our representation of those guys saying, oh, you need to contact your legislator and vote no on this, or we need to try to rewrite this, or let's try to get this one killed. If we didn't have that staff of the Utah Leagues of Cities and Towns doing that, I don't know how anybody could keep up with that. So I just wanted to take the time to publicly thank them, and I am so impressed with their people and the job they do and how they work with the legislators, and they are the liaisons between the cities and the councils and the citizens. And they get a bad rap, but I do not know what cities would do without that organization and the involvement. And I'm just grateful that this council gets involved and they pay, because there's a lot of cities down there that just take what they get. And it's kind of sad because they don't know what they're getting. But at least we feel like we tried, and we get some things we get and some things we don't. So I just wanted to thank them publicly, kind of say what they do, and know that I don't know what we would do without them. And I don't know what any city would do without them, because there'd be a lot of things that go through as written that have a long-lasting effect that we would never know until we had to do it.
Till it's too late.
So anyway, I'd like to just say a short prayer, and then we'll Our Father in heaven, we're indeed grateful that we can be here tonight to govern the city of Kaysville. We're so grateful that we can live in an area like this and be around the people that we are. Please bless our staff, that they can manage throughout their days and the weeks of the business that they do for the cities to make things better for the citizens here at Kaysville. We're indeed grateful for all the blessings that we receive, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ, amen. If you'll all stand up and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Blackham, for sharing those that insight to the Utah League. I'll just add that there is a national organization called the National League of Cities and Towns, and I think sometimes people assume that that is the organization that is running the local chapter, and it is not. So very, very different in terms of philosophy. National League has a sort of a different, broader agenda, but each state, as far as I know, has a chapter, but we're just very fortunate, like Councilmember Blackham said, in Utah, because they'll call us and say, hey, Kaysville, there's this bill. What do you think about it? And we have a voice at the table, and it's really nice to be able to be part of that conversation. All right. The first, for those of you who are new to our council, we have call to the public first. And before I start call to the public, we have a guest who is here, and we would like to invite him up. Our friend Commissioner, Davis County Commissioner Bob Stevenson is here. Come on down. Did you want to say something? Yeah, okay. We'd like to provide an opportunity for Commissioner Stevenson.
I was just reading that. It said you're supposed to sign up. Jason, you didn't tell me. Trying to avoid this part.
We knew you were coming, so.
And I wouldn't have hurried if I would have known Mike was going to be giving us a lecture on the cities and towns. So.
Well, you know, Mike, he's really long-winded.
He's got a tie on. I'm impressed.
I'm just kidding.
Anyway, I just wanted to take just a few minutes. You talk about as we pledge allegiance to the flag, and this country is wonderful, and I think every one of us realize that we are so fortunate, and when you travel abroad and go other places, you realize how great this place is. And one of the things that this country allows all of us to do is to voice our opinions. And over the last few months, there's been a lot of voices of opinion that have been voiced. And I want to compliment actually Kaysville City, actually everyone in the county as far as that goes, because Anytime I've been involved with the voicing of opinions, using that term, is that I've never felt anybody being cruel or being harsh towards me personally. I felt that there was feelings that are being shared with what they thought, and that's part of what that flag allows us to do. And so I just want to, for you guys and everyone in Kaysville, thank you for everything that you've done, because we have learned an awful lot in the past 3 months dealing with homelessness. And there are things that, going back into September, the good mayor and myself sat on the task force on trying to figure different things out. And I had no idea of some of the things that we have figured out. And we do know that we have a lot of work to do to prepare for next year. From everything I can see, the 4 sites that we have, none of them really qualify for what we need to have as far as what we're doing. We kind of had, I'll use the term manna from heaven when we had the DBH building come open. And as we learned this process and as we deal with the individuals, our guests is kind of what I think we started referring to them as that we realized the importance of being able to have different segments where people could be able to stay. There are times we had to separate if someone was ill or whatever was there. We've learned that as far as restrooms go, we have to improve that. We have to have spots for where the sheriff's deputy would be. We have to have the check-in desk. There's a whole lot of things that the mayor and I have talked about this. We've got a lot of work to do to be able to come up with what we're going to need to be prepared for next year. The one thing that I think has been a little bit touchy has been the aspect of the individuals who we've had come. We've been actually surprised, and I remember the very first night I was over there, and this gentleman walks in with his dog, and I wanted to ask him one question, and that was, how did you get here? And I was expecting him to tell me that he had walked or had caught the bus, because we knew the little shuttle that we were using, they wasn't even back yet. And he says to me, well, I drove. My car's parked right out here, and actually my trailer's parked to it. Is there a place I can plug in? And I'm sitting there going, that is not what I expected. And then he came in and he wanted to know, what can I do to help? Go talk to Ryan and Chanel. I don't know what to tell you on that. And we found as this has gone on, and I would really suggest that when if there are any more Code Blue nights, we don't expect there to be very many the rest of the year, but take a few minutes and ride down there at 9 o'clock and go in there and see the people and see the individuals that you're dealing with. It's these people want to talk, they want to visit, they want to know what's going on. The age, we've been surprised that we've got a lot of people that we haven't had a lot, but a number of those are over 60 years of age. So they're on Medicare or they're on Social Security. They just don't have anywhere to live. And it's been really surprising to me personally to be able to see this. We at the county are trying to get this figured out with what we have to do over in the future. We do not believe that we need to be looking at some year-round facility or anything. We just got to come up with a good location and a good facility that can handle this Code Blue and also be able to help. There's a couple of these individuals I've been told that they've been able to find jobs and have been able to get their own housing and this type of stuff. So there's been a lot of fun stuff. But I have to tell you just one real quick story, is that there was this, I was over there, and this younger man who was a veteran comes in. And he comes in, he's got a backpack that I don't think I could even carry, like 10 feet. It was so big. And he'd been sleeping under the viaduct over in Clearfield. And he came in and wanted to just be able to have a place to stay because it was so bitter cold. And he comes up to us, because we were just standing there talking. He comes up to us. He comes up with a pair of pants. And he holds his pants up to him, and he says, this kind of makes me mad. And we go, why? And he goes, well, because this size on these pants are my size, but look at these. And I said, well, they'd probably work good for the summer because they're only going to cover up to your knees. And he goes, yeah, I don't know why it's that way. And so Chanel makes a comment to him saying, well, maybe it's a boy's size that you grabbed instead of. And he goes, yeah. And I'm sitting here thinking, this is too bad that he was trying to. And this is what he did. He looked at Chanel and walked over, handed her the pants, and said, please give these to someone who may come in who needs them and that they will fit. And at that point in time, I had to go in the other room because I'm sitting here going, we're trying to help these guys, and these guys are in here trying to help us. So it's been very special. I take my hat off to Mike and Christy Ostermiller. Those guys have been absolutely champs as far as it goes. And the people, the volunteers that have been coming in have been wonderful. But as we've learned, again, I want to thank the residents of Kaysville. I want to thank you guys for everything that we've been able to do and the things that we've been able to learn. My hat's off to you guys, and thank you, and I appreciate it. And if you think the league works hard, you ought to try seeing what UAC does, because those two organizations work pretty dang hard together as far as coordinating all these things. And I am a believer that we have to remember each city has its personality, and that's through the entire state. And if I could wave the magic wand, anybody that became a legislator needed to be a city council person first. You learn way much to be able to understand how to run as far as the legislature goes. With that, I'm going home, and
Thanks, Bob.
appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Commissioner, thank you.
Oh, Commissioner.
Commissioner John.
Commissioner John.
Commissioner John, there you go. See you, Commissioner Stevenson. Okay, Lorraine Starkey.
My name is Laureen Starkey, and I attend these meetings regularly and speak with and for a very large group of Kaysville citizens. And I just would like to explain what we've heard in this room and from materials posted from the development and planning departments, that there are 0 downsides to the Kaysville Community Reinvestment Agency. And I have had some individuals ask me to ask more questions to receive more specific answers. So we have been told that our council has been reviewing this for years, and we have a question about the answer to the residents on 200 North who have also lived here for more years than we've been planning. Some of them have 3 and 4 generations, and they plan to live their elderly years there because of the way that it is now. They do not want to see high density down Main Street or 200 North, and they are concerned with developers beginning to buy out their neighbors at a high price to start a domino effect of people selling. They're concerned to see the changes that are taking place in their area, such as the Code Blue or a possibility of a permanent shelter, a liquor license given to a nearby establishment, and rehabilitation houses. It seems a little unfair to these people that live there to have the 3 new additions, these 3 new additions, and the news sources that we are listening to that seem to be maybe not heard by some of our council members are that there are other cities that have had their redevelopment agencies and the community reinvestment areas that have very significant tax hikes, up to 6.5 times. This is a real issue and a real concern for these people. We look around Davis County and we see almost every city changed with high density, and it was mentioned that these other cities are also using CRAs. Are the other cities growing with density because of the CRAs? Can the zoning be changed easily? The citizens want to be heard. They want to be understood. The sincere desire that I hear is that they want to talk to you and understand why this is so good and see the picture that you see. They want a plan, and they want to see why you feel this is guaranteed. Many have listened to and loved the format of the citizens meeting where we had, and they wonder if Wednesday that it could be similar, where they could receive and hear and speak and be.
Thank you so much. We don't have anyone else signed up to speak to that item. So, but before I forget, I will just remind everyone, we will have a town hall next Tuesday, to have an opportunity to talk again about the CRA and to let everyone come and ask us questions, and we'll answer them and we'll ask for your input, and it will be a really great opportunity to once again have another conversation to clarify and to hopefully answer the rest of the questions that might be remaining after the last two council meetings that we've had about this, and the townhomes that we've, oh, sorry, Wednesday. Oh, Wednesday the 12th, thank you. Wednesday the 12th, okay. And it will be posted publicly. I think it's already been posted, actually. Yeah, so make sure that we share that. We want as many people as possible to show up to that. Okay, conflicts of interest, anyone? No? Okay, seeing none, let's move to our agenda item 4A, consent items. Does someone like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve consent item A.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Hunt.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Let's move to action item 5A, an ordinance amending Kaysville City Code 17-24-2 farm animals and 17-2 definitions. Turn the mic over to Melinda, Community Development Director.
Mayor, members of the council, good evening. This item was submitted by a resident as a text amendment after they moved here and were under the impression that they could have multiple horses allowed on their property. When we explained the code to them and that they could only have 2 horses, they asked what could be done, and this is one of the great things about our form of government is that we can have, at least on our land use code, citizen-led initiatives to change that code. So the applicant is here this evening, Mr. Ben Wilson. He submitted a text amendment application that essentially will reclassify mini horses that they have into a medium category and not have those considered as a regular sized horse. So to accomplish this, we went through this process of figuring out how do we carve out a certain type of animal without creating other issues, and that necessitated some additional definitions in our code that don't currently exist. Actually, we don't have any definitions for our farm animals. So what we've done here is we're proposing to create essentially, I think, 4 different categories of farm animals. We have included a definition of miniature horses that was provided by Mr. Wilson, and that definition is as defined, excuse me, by the American Miniature Horse Association. So we also wanted to just clarify, then we have these small, medium, and large farm animal categories, and then a 4th category, which is your swine and pigs. So the definitions that are in front of you on the screen there, we obviously have those smaller sized animals that just don't have as much of an impact. After looking at the data and information received from Mr. Wilson, it was clear that a mini horse would not have the same type of an impact as a large horse. And with that medium sized farm animal classification that included llamas and other animals that actually were very similar in size to those horses, we felt comfortable creating these different categories, and then left that large farm animal category to include what you would expect, the horses, cattle, donkeys, and other similar sized animals. So this matrix is what currently exists in our code. And with the strike through that you have shown on the screen here, it looks like we're making a lot of changes, but there were these excess lines that really served no purpose. And so the easier way to look at this is this next matrix, which just shows this is the animal type, the category, the minimum lot size, and how much lot or how much square footage is required for each animal. So let me just go back to that previous screen, but essentially there's no need to continue to define. If we have 4,000 square feet and 500 per animal, there's no purpose to say if 8,000 you still have 500 square feet, 14,500, etc. So those rows were just removed because they're unnecessary. We also had some confusing language down here, which really, I can only surmise why that was in there. But a while back, the city added the R120 zone, which has that minimum square footage requirement of 20,000 square feet. And our RA zone is a true half-acre zone. And so there was I think a deference paid to allow more for that RA zone, that true half-acre, because it's a residential agricultural zone. But with the lot sizes being so similar, we felt like having that distinction, first of all, was confusing and really also did not serve a purpose. So if approved this evening, this is what that would look like. And there was a question about where did that 5,445 number come from, because it is kind of a weird number to have, but that's just as you continue to break down the half acre to the quarter acre to an eighth of an acre, that's what that square footage or that number comes from. So with, to be consistent, however, we are saying that you do have to have that half acre to have those larger horses and cattle. So go to our next slide here. Another thing that we have done just to make the code easier to read and understand is we have broken out, essentially item 1, 2, and 3 here was in one single paragraph. We've broken that out into 5 different paragraphs. And the Planning Commission wordsmithed this a little bit in the Planning Commission meeting and feel like this is a better ending result than what we have on the books currently. So that said, the Planning Commission did discuss this on January 9th. A public hearing was held. There were 3 citizens who chose to comment. One individual, now after it was explained, was supportive of the change. Another question, which I just covered, was why that number was 5,445 square feet. And then there was also a question about how the regulations here would impact. Is that listed up there? Would impact, the domesticated animals, which are not regulated under this ordinance. We have a separate ordinance for cats and dogs and those domesticated animals. So with that, the Planning Commission issued a recommendation to the City Council to approve the proposed ordinance, and that was a unanimous vote. The applicant is here this evening to answer any questions you may have, but based on the Planning Commission's recommendation, the research and work that staff has put in here, we are recommending that the council approve this proposed ordinance.
Okay, thank you so much. We don't have anyone signed up to speak to this item, so would you like to come up, Mr. Wilson? Will you just give us a little bit of narrative?
Happy to,
Okay.
yeah. So my wife has 4 miniature horses. We have 4 miniature horses. Our kids love them, and we came here from Florida to be closer to family. And after the fact, found out that miniature horses counted as full-size horses. So pretty devastating for my wife initially because she really loves having them in our property. So they're currently they're staying at one of the facilities here, and we're anxious to get them back if the council is okay to approve this. We just felt like it was made sense to recategorize miniature horses as separate from cows and full-size horses. So I've really appreciated the Melinda and Ann and the zoning commission. They've all been great in working with us and teaching us how all this works. So I appreciate you taking the time to consider this.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions?
One teeny question.
Sure.
No pun intended. No, one mini question. My wife really wants one bad, and she was showing me one on KSL the other night, and I said, but don't you have to keep them in the house? Like, because do they get cold, or can they be out like a regular horse, just out in the freezing?
They're extremely hardy. I think they were bred like in Scotland or somewhere where it's really cold, so they do really well cold. They don't have to be in the house. But some people do choose to keep them in the house. You can train them to that level. They're a lot of fun.
Was that a serious question?
I'm absolutely serious. But I'll make a motion if you're ready, Mayor.
Okay, anyone else? questions? Oh, no? Okay. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Wilson. Okay,
I'll make a motion that we approve action item A, an ordinance amending Kaysville City Code 17-24-2, farm animals, and 17-2 definitions.
I'll
okay,
second.
thank you. We have a motion?
Second.
Second, all right, Councilmember Jackson.
Aye.
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 All right, good luck with your miniature horses. Thank you for coming through and following through the process with us, and we appreciate you, being here. Okay, item 6, work items, an ordinance amending various sections of Title 12, Parks, Public Property, Recreation of the Kaysville City Code. Turn the mic over to our Parks and Recreation Director, Cole.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Cole Stevens. What you have before you is, of course, a work item discussing some of the proposed changes to our Title 12, which is Parks, Public Property, and Recreation. There's changes scattered throughout all of this. Hopefully you've had time to read through all this. A lot of it is just technical. A lot of it is boiled down to how our department currently functions as far as name, titles, things of that as positions. There are a few significant changes or proposed changes that we would like to just work through and talk through with the council in this setting. I'll kind of highlight the changes if you can follow along. The first one is 12-2-1, which is just talking about littering. The old section just referred to things probably back in the early 70s, the dead carcasses and things like that of animals, and we haven't seen a lot of that. This just kind of brings us up to current language and what we're currently seeing in the parks. One of the other sections that's got some significant changes, just because it didn't have a lot, is 12-2. Go the other way. Yeah. Keep going. Yeah. There you go. So 12-2-2, which deals with vehicles. We have seen over the last few years, scroll, there you go. You can see what it said before, as far as which was really ambiguous. It didn't have a lot of teeth to it. With the way our society is, with a lot of motorized vehicles, whether that's battery powered or gas powered, we're starting to see a lot of more vehicle use, motorized use on our parks, causing damage, causing destruction to some of our infrastructure. So this just kind of clarifies, gives more depth to our code, which allows the police department a lot more ability to enforce these things when we have issues with vehicles transversing across our grass and doing donuts in the wintertime out on the soccer fields with their ATVs and all that stuff.
Mayor, do we want to discuss these as he goes
Yes,
through?
you can. Yes,
Yes,
please. This is a work item. So
Okay, because
Yeah.
I would like to talk about this one in
100%.
depth,
Yep.
because I'm probably I guess you wrote this because I'm the biggest violator you got down there at the park, I guess, probably, because
As far as on grass.
No, I don't go on the grass, but
Okay.
the way I read this is I can't even take them in the park anymore, really. But, I mean, I have a one-wheel. I ride all over the place and that,
Yeah.
but I take my grandkids over there. They each got little electric scooters because I like to go in the parking lots when nobody's there because I can't take them out in the road, too busy. And, we go over there probably when the weather's warm. We probably go over there once a week and go in the parking lots and I let them take their scooters around the parking lot and that. And sure, if there were people out walking on the
Yeah.
path, I understand that there's a few bad actors that have made it tough for a lot of people to do things. And another thing that's changed people's lives are these e-bikes. Now, I get that, because the way I read this, if you don't push, pedal, or pull it, you can't do it in the park, pretty much.
And to clarify, it just says parking area.
Yeah.
So up
So-
upon park, so you,
Vehicle, yeah.
On any park, trail, or
Yeah, so if you consider the rail trail, that would say you couldn't
Except-
use an e-bike or.
I thought it says except upon roads, parking areas, and,
Yeah.
or other hard surface areas, which means they're
But
allowed
I
in
thought
the
those
parking
were only
lights.
for
That's right.
vehicles. I think the way it read
And
is,
that could be, I mean, we're.
and that's
completely
where
open
I
to
read it
change.
2 or 3 times, and every time I read it, I felt like it was telling me I
Yeah.
couldn't do any of this.
No, the intent with this is not to say it's upon any surface that is not designated for vehicles, so.
But I
or
mean,
grass.
it's like,
We do have some issues, and we don't know how to tackle this, is with the e-bikes on the rail trail. and
Yeah,
other-
they go fast.
And I get it.
As they go so fast.
I get
and
it.
So,
Because people have lumped them all into one category.
Yeah.
There's class 1, class 2, and class 3. And I get the class 3s going 30 miles an hour down there. But on the other hand, you've got one person telling you we don't want e-bikes and another one, our transportation system saying we wish everybody would get an e-bike and use our paths with their e-bikes and get rid of a car. And so it's kind of and I get it. And then these kids buy these Scions and they cut one wire and they'll go 60 miles an hour and they don't even look like a bicycle. They're an electric motorcycle. And because of that, it's made it so it looks like we're writing hard and fast rules. I guess
Well,
I'm the biggest violator.
yeah, well, if you read the sentence, at least how I read it, Nick can interpret it different too, but where I read, except upon roads, parking areas, or other hard surfaces designed for motor vehicle operation.
So a paved trail would.
So a paved trail would be
okay.
designed for motor vehicle operation.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what, that's how I.
That's how I,
Nick,
that's how I
Nick, is that how
interpret
you
it.
wrote it?
I'll defer to the legal on.
What's intended?
Yeah, it's,
Thank you.
I read it 2 or 3 times and
I think your point is really well taken. As I read that through with the examples that you're giving,
Yeah.
I can certainly see where that's not clear if we're going to prohibit those or we're going to allow those. I think, and I don't want to speak for Cole, but I think our intent was not, we weren't concerned about grandchildren riding electric scooters. That seems like an appropriate use. We were concerned about people jumping the curb and doing donuts in the park, in the night they turn 16 and damaging the park. So I think Cole and I will flag this and we'll wordsmith it and bring it back because that is not super clear.
And I guess where I was getting at, because when it was talking about vehicles, it said, if you look at the last sentence, it says, and in all other self-propelled mechanical vehicles except vehicles moved solely by human power.
Yep.
And that means if you can't pedal, push, or pull it, you can't do it. And that was the definition of vehicle. And that meant to me, because what it says down here, when I read it, it says, vehicles upon any park, trail, or multi-use open space except upon roads and parking areas. That's it. I
Or
mean,
other hard surfaces.
Or other hard surfaces.
or other hard
design.
surfaces, but you could tell me that I can't
Yeah, it's
take it, that's not allowed over
We-
there.
Yeah, we'll certainly flag it, we'll reword it, but
Please do that,
just
because,
because we've had a lot of near misses, and
I-
we're just trying to find a balance.
I mean,
But-
right, and I live by the
Yeah.
path, and I can tell you that the Class 1 and 2 e-bikes have changed people's lives. There are people out there using that.
Oh,
It's the
we-
most
we-
used park
we
I've
agree,
ever seen.
We agree, and that's not our intent, is to
And I could
prohibit
almost
those.
read that to
So-
say, because they call it the rail trail. You call it a trail, that's telling me you may not be able to put a,
Yeah, our intent is not to restrict
okay.
uses.
I think we need to work
Yeah, Hunter.
a lot
agreed.
more on the
Yeah, we can do
vehicle
that.
portion.
That's-
Nate has a point.
Oh, yeah,
That's
just,
why we came to the work session, because we want
Yeah.
to work all this out, yep.
I was just going to point out the Bonneville Shoreline Trail as well, and where it connects up there, just, so, yeah, rewording it.
So just to be clear, the intention is to allow scooters, bikes, e-bikes, four-wheelers type things in the parking lot area? That's okay?
Well, not
Or
necessarily
in the
four-wheelers,
trail?
because four-wheelers, I mean, that gets
We
into
have
the
a
whole.
four-wheeler, those are fun to.
I know they're fun, but we get a lot of issues with golf carts, because golf carts, it gets really
Okay,
complicated.
so you don't want them.
We get golf carts on the rail trail.
I'll
which-
say, that's the
Which, if you
big,
look at the rail trail
It's not
is
wide.
actually no motor vehicles on the rail trail.
Okay.
Now, e-bikes, I wouldn't necessarily classify as a
You're talking
It is.
motor, but
gas-powered.
it is.
It is.
So, but
Yeah.
that's, it's been no motor vehicles on the rail trail since its beginning in 2008, and that was a UDOT UTA. But back then, there wasn't
It wasn't
lights.
what it is today.
Yeah, so it's how do you define, I think my biggest, how do you define a motor vehicle versus,
But an ATV that's street legal.
And I feel like a lot of onus is on the police restricting, I mean, kids shouldn't be driving most of the time, a four-wheeler is not licensed to be driving on the street. Like, yeah, some side-by-sides are street legal, but I know very few four-wheelers that are. Definitely very few golf carts are, and yet in our neighborhood, there's, 10-year-old kids driving all their friends around in a golf cart.
and our big thing is we just getting all these vehicles on our grass spaces.
Right, I understand
and
that.
sidewalks that aren't meant, like Barnes Park, it's not meant to have golf carts, other than, we have golf carts for staff for maintenance purposes, but it's not meant for the average citizen to take their golf cart and
Right.
wheel around Barnes
I
Park.
mean, I just hate to see somebody go up to the Wilderness Park and not be able to ride their Class 2 e-bike up there.
Oh, I agree with
You
that.
know.
I agree with that. That's not the intent of what this, so yes, we'll work on
Okay.
the language. Or I'll let Nick work on the language.
Any other questions or comments, council members? No? Okay, I think we are clear in what we, okay.
Okay.
Thank you, good
Yes,
feedback,
good-
thank you.
Yes,
you.
exactly. Next station that has some significant changes, it's really the 2.5 alcohol beverages. It just basically expands upon that a little bit, just because some stuff that we see up in the Wilderness Park and other things, alcohol, so it just adds a few more.
Gambling?
That's right, we're gonna enforce everything. No. Gambling's illegal, right?
No more pets? All your fun, John.
Yeah. The next big section that's had some change,
Horses anymore.
Yeah, not on the trails,
not on the trails.
especially if they're drunk.
He'll have to
Okay.
create a racetrack in his backyard that he can, is safety. This stems from a lot of inquiries we get, which is 12.2.6. Yeah, she's going too fast. Right there.
Okay.
This just adds some more definitions to some things that we have occur all the time in our parks, as far as discharging fireworks, rockets, explosives that are not permitted, with the exception of a special permit from the city. We do allow those if they're by permit, but we've had some near misses there with fireworks. The next section is just about burning of fires in our city parks. We do permit it in the Wilderness Park. You'll see a section where we talked about camping, but the Wilderness Park does have designated fire pits, but that is at the discretion of the fire department and can be restricted at any time based on fire conditions. When those do occur, we do post no fires allowed in the Wilderness Park, big yellow banners.
So if
across the-
fires are allowed, then
Sometimes.
people,
in-
they'll know because there's no signs? Because that's what we've gone up
in-
camping
yes,
there a few
They're permitted
times.
in the designated fire pits.
Right.
That we currently have up there. They're not permitted if they go out and just try to build their own makeshift. Our crews try to, when they find those, they try to disperse them and take them down.
I have a question about number one.
Uh-huh.
So there are certain parts of the city where fireworks are restricted, I
Yeah.
believe, close to the foothills. And so I know families will typically drive down and go to a parking lot somewhere to light off some fireworks in the parking lot. I would hate to have a family get in trouble or get cited for doing that when they're really not trying to do something wrong. They just want to light off some
But
fireworks.
they're also not doing it in a safe manner because they're not aware of what's
Near water and.
around them.
No, I'm
Not
saying if they live up there, but they drive down to like Barnes Park, an area where it's safer to do it in the parking lot at night.
We don't want to see that happen.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that to see if the city just says no, or if there's a way they can get a permit to just do that if it's for their family.
They can certainly apply for a permit. They have to meet all the fire requirements for the fall zones. It's no different than we have to have a permit when we do a fireworks show. For every inch of shell, you have to have 75-foot ground clearance to shoot off fireworks.
And I'm talking more just like an average family,
Yeah.
nothing crazy.
Well, the average family unfortunately doesn't clean up their mess
Yeah,
either.
that's true.
So our crews end up cleaning up all the debris in the parking lots.
Especially in those parking lots, yeah.
So if people would clean up after themselves, maybe it's a different, but they don't. And we're just trying to protect the public, the public properties from damage. So number 2 deals with the fire, and then number 3 is just,
Don't be a jerk.
don't be a jerk. We've had problems in the past with these fight groups that show up out of parks
Yes.
and just try
They're in the
to
West Davis
beat
corridor.
each other
a
up.
lot, yeah.
And it's just the
Yeah.
most bizarre thing that, they're high school kids,
They
but
did it a lot in west of 200 North, West Davis.
the police get word
Uh-huh.
that,
You're not supposed to talk about it.
yeah, that's, yeah. We find out about it when we go there, and all of a sudden you have kids running out of the dark.
Yeah,
So,
into the
it's
neighborhoods,
just,
hiding in people's yards, yeah.
So that's that. And then these next 4 or 5 sections are new that we haven't added, but they are issues that we deal with on an annual basis. Concessions is one of them. Just, we get a lot of people wanting to just makeshift sell. We're not saying that they can't, they just need to get a permit and permission from the city to exercise that, because we have concessions agreements at times with contractors. for
So on the 4th of July, when everyone's hanging out in the park, people can't bring a wagon with popsicles and drinks.
Well,
And sell them?
they're not supposed to, because they don't have a bill.
But if they applied for a permit of some sort, they could do that?
Yeah. They're not, it's the sales tax, we can't, we're not gonna
Yeah, we're
permit
talking
it
about
because
little
it gets,
kids. Okay, I'm just wondering, is there any ability to, on holidays like that?
yeah, but
carve-
the
no?
thing is, it doesn't
Make
just happen on
exceptions?
holidays, it
Okay.
happens on every Saturday at soccer games and every Monday night at Barnes Park for baseball games, and it's like, where do you draw the line? Who do you know has, because some people that have actually gone through the process of getting a contract with the city to do
Right.
concessions, they've done it the right way, someone that just
And
wants
then,
to,
the trailer next door hasn't.
yeah, so it's just.
Okay, just asking for
People just want to
friends.
use the parks for, which deals with section 9, just personal private gain. I mean, it's just not fair to the citizens of the community that so-and-so gets to set up shop at Barnes Park,
Okay,
free to sell concessions, but using the public space for their own personal gain without a permit from the city.
okay.
Number 8 is just dealing with entertainment. We get a lot of requests all the time from just different groups to do some extravagant things. The Catalyst Center with Davis School District has been one. It was rough at the beginning, but now they come through the permitting process to get a permit rather than just setting up shop. This section does not prohibit free speech activities. Anything like that would be constitutionally protected. Number 12, number 10, talking about camping and overnight sleeping. We've been waiting to bring this to the council specifically for the Wilderness Park, because we have allowed, and then we haven't, just was waiting for some Supreme Court cases to be settled. So this is permitting camping only in the Wilderness Park by permit, that they go online just like they would a pavilion reservation. They go on and reserve one of the campsites there. There would be a fee for that that would be set every year in the consolidated fee schedule. So this will allow the permit for camping in the Wilderness Park to resume by
I do too.
permit.
Right.
But
This is
it-
good.
But it does prohibit camping in all the other
Right.
parks.
No, this is good.
Okay. Number 11 just deals with signs and advertising. It's we just get a lot of signs all over they just get placed up on the corners of some of our parks, and we're not there to advertise for your, whatever it might be, so,
Your election.
yeah. So this just says that only signs are permitted, they have to come through our office to get a permit, or to get permission to put signs up. And if signs are on the parks, it is my staff that does put up
Right.
the banners that go up. That's it with the section 2. Any questions there before we go to the cemetery?
So I was just thinking, oh, sorry, did I cut you off, Mayor?
Go ahead.
Okay, back to the concessions, I think, thinking about it, is there any way we could come up with like an easier permit for for kids? Just 'cause I know like they do the entrepreneur market, and I mean, the kids don't have to have a permit for that. I know that the market kind of takes care of a lot of that stuff, but I mean, would that be a workable solution to let like child entrepreneurs still
Yeah,
have
I
an
would
experience?
defer to the business licensing and
What
all
did
that
we-
thing. I don't think
It's
so,
not
but
zoned for retail
yeah,
sales.
it's
Okay.
it's public use.
What
so-
did we do to allow the lemonade stands?
They got a permit, didn't they? They went through a process.
Yeah.
I think we have a special provision in the code, and I could be wrong, I'd have to check this out. But
It's a youth enterprise.
I think I think it allows for those kind of,
Oh, you're talking about neighborhood. I was talking about
Yeah,
in the park.
the
Okay.
lemonade stands where we see all our police and
And
fire
it is
going
because
to.
the parks are public use, so they are a public use zone, and they're not made for, anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
But I understand, we get it all the time. Like, my staff doesn't go out and
Right, you don't patrol it necessarily.
police
but-
it. It's just,
Well, there's also, I think, just liability to the city.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if someone got sick or hurt,
yeah,
No food handlers permit kind of
Yeah.
thing, and yes, they could come back with,
yeah. And we want our parks to be a place that someone can go and just enjoy the time and not feel like,
they have to buy
oh,
stuff.
here comes somebody walking by trying to sell me something
Yeah.
in a park. I don't think that's the
Yeah.
right use of our parks to,
We understand.
so, anyway, but we're open. If you want to tell us something else, we'll do whatever you would like. The cemetery, I'll just skip, most of it is probably boring to you as far as like,
None of this is boring, Cole. This is
Okay.
very, very interesting to
Okay.
us.
Something to die for, right?
Yes, right.
uh,
We are super.
yeah, so if you go down to this
interested.
section where it just says monument, a lot of the upper stuff is just some refining of some
Definitions,
words,
yeah.
but right there. It used to say that in certain sections of of our cemetery that you could have headstones that were 4.5 feet. We're now saying that the maximum height that you can go in a headstone is 36 inches. There's a lot of reasons for that. And if you get much bigger than that, we can't move them, so we're having to call companies. The biggest reason is for our irrigation system. If they're taller than 3 feet, our irrigation heads can't shoot over the top of them, and so it ends up blocking, and then we get complaints with dry grass and stuff. All of our new sections, G, H, and I, and F, already have that restriction for 36 inches. And all we're saying is anything new coming into the cemetery, the 36 inches is the max in height. And then in the plats, this is just housekeeping for us. These are how our plats are named, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. F, G, H, and I weren't included before. Now we've just made sure that everything is included for the future. And then definitions of the cemetery sexton, that's just some clarifying.
Do we allow stacking?
Double depth?
Yeah.
Not currently, no. We're not
Oh.
proposing that we do either, so.
Okay. Just a lot of cemeteries are doing it.
Some cemeteries do it, and I'll explain while you brought it up, I'll just explain the reasons why we don't. A lot of cemeteries, when they're platted, they're plats. So we have a lot. Each cemetery is broken up into sections. One, there's plats, then there's blocks, then there's lots. A lot is 12, it's basically 20 by 20, roughly 20 by 18. There's 12 burial spaces per lot. Our lots are 40 inches wide. Most cemeteries, when they're doing their lots, are about 48 inches wide. And so when we're digging a grave, we're digging within 1 to 2 inches of
Next grave.
the next grave. And so there's a fear
Yeah, caving.
on that double depth that if you have one grave that is just a traditional depth, the double depth, then you've got issues with OSHA for shoring graves. A lot of cemeteries, when they're doing double depth, are going and pre-excavating, setting all of the vaults in the ground. So when they're digging the first grave, they dig down to the top of the lowest vault, pull the lid off, and then place the remains in there. So that's just a lot of upfront expense that
We don't have.
so.
Okay.
But yeah, we've looked at it, and we dig our hole right now about 5.5 feet deep. To do that other one, you're digging about probably close to 8 feet deep, 40 inches wide by 8 feet, and
It's a lot.
it's, I just am nervous about putting guys in a hole that's over their head and
Yeah, having a kid.
with concrete vaults on the side of them and the collapsing, so.
Yeah, that'd be,
So currently we
That'd be
don't,
awful.
so,
Okay.
stuff that you never thought you'd want to know, right?
right.
Number 2 in 12.3.5, this just simply go to bullet point 2. Yeah, the fees have to be paid no less than 48 hours prior to a scheduled funeral. It was a little bit, the word in there before was the word executed. It said this order must be executed. I just didn't like the word executed, so.
The cemetery.
So
That makes sense.
I changed the word to completed.
Good.
So
Good
I
idea.
just,
Humor in it.
it's a simple thing, but I don't know, I just didn't feel,
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
so. If you go to section, or bullet, or number 8 in that section, this is one that we have some questions on and would like some feedback from the council on, as far as, we currently don't do any, no interments on Sundays or the legal holidays of New Year's Day, Memorial Day, Juneteenth, Independence Day, Pioneer Day, Labor Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving Day, or Christmas Day. The question is, should we add that to just say all city observed holidays? There's some reasons why we favor that, just because it's overtime for staff. Also understanding the mortuary, the funeral home side of it,
They back up.
those are big days for them as well. So it's just this,
I do have a question. Is there ever an option to, there is sometimes, right? People can pay extra if they
For-
want a family
Memorial Day
member
or something.
buried on a holiday that's mentioned?
no.
There's no exception.
There is an extra fee for what we classify as the minor holidays, which are the Columbus Days, the Martin Luther King, President's Day, those days.
Juneteenth, I would
Yeah.
hope.
So Juneteenth, we added,
Actually, it's included in there.
it used to be just a small few of them that we didn't, but we're just looking for some guidance, what the city council, a lot of it is staffing and just the overtime and,
So you're saying just to take, just say all city observed holidays?
that's one of the proposed, that's one of the things that we're.
That would include everything above. I mean,
Yes.
Right.
would that include Sundays? Because I think.
Yeah,
not-
Sundays are always included.
Okay.
We don't do on Sundays.
It's simple.
I don't know why you wouldn't just say that.
What about Saturdays? What do you do
We
with
do
that?
Saturdays. There is an extra fee for Saturday.
It is an extra fee, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's overtime. I mean, I've got to have guys come in on their non-scheduled workday to do it, so there is a
So I
Saturday
know a lot
fee.
of times burials, people come out of town, work
Right.
schedules.
Yeah, our two busiest days
For
for
the holidays.
burials are Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that Saturdays should stay in there.
Yeah, Saturdays will
somehow.
stay in there.
It just seems to me it's almost confusing that you're listing a half a dozen, but you're not listing the other half a dozen. By say all city observes holidays includes them all.
Yeah.
Councilmember Oaks, just so I understand, your proposal is there shall be no interments on Sunday or city
Both.
observed
That is
holidays.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, my only question to that would be, sometimes I know city has the option of observing different days. Like you get one day instead of the other day. So
So.
how would that apply?
So this is how we do it. So at the beginning of every year, my cemetery staff sends a letter to all of the funeral homes that we regularly deal with in the
Right.
area and letting them know that here is our holiday
Schedule.
schedule for this year.
Okay.
And so they all have that a year in advance. Now, whether they look at it or not, but they do get that once a year as far as.
Are you specifically saying, like, when Christmas falls on a Sunday and the city observes it
On a Monday.
They would get my staff would get a
Yes.
Monday off.
Well, and I think that, isn't Juneteenth and Columbus Day? Doesn't staff get to choose? I thought we had some choice in some of the
No, that was
holidays
a-
that were.
Juneteenth is by
Okay,
state.
maybe not Juneteenth, but I thought we had a holiday that is kind of a floating holiday, so they could kind of choose to take or not take. Did we change that?
That was a proposal when we presented the Juneteenth.
Okay, but
the council decided to
To
just
make it a holiday.
say state observed holidays.
Okay, all right.
But I don't think it was unanimous.
Right,
believe that's
it was
correct.
probably not it was not a unanimous vote. So when it falls on a Monday, then it would be the observed, so all city observed holidays includes that, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yep, and the beginning of every year, the cemetery staff sends those
Okay.
letters out to, the big ones are Lindquist, Russin,
Yeah.
Myers, a couple others that we deal with there. Section 10 is just a correction of some terminology that in the industry, they don't really use the word mortician anymore. It's funeral director. So it's just clarifying that to make it more current. And then the rest of these are just removing the masculine, feminine.
Go
and just
back.
going to-
Do
yeah.
you, it says the payment goes to the city recorder?
That is, which section are you on?
Let's go back to the one we were talking about just a minute.
Number 10.
Number 10.
That's the one that I missed. So it goes to the cemetery section who then
Okay.
transferred
Okay.
it.
I
Yeah.
think it's the
I
paragraph
knew I
before
knew I
this
missed one.
It says
so-
right there, it says interment order, it says paying
Yeah.
the interment. I don't know, I thought it said.
When this ordinance was written, probably back in the early 80s, the cemetery, or the city recorder was also the
Yeah.
cemetery assistant. I've talked with Anne Marie, and there's nowhere in like state code or anywhere that, so it's just letting Anne Marie out of
So that'll change.
her, that
It'll
responsibility.
just change the section.
It just changed it to second, and that's how we're currently doing.
Okay.
Anne Marie has been writing a letter when we have a new cemetery sexton, that giving permission for this Jackie to collect the fees, and that little step would go away because Jackie does it all currently, and it just clarifies that. So I missed that in my.
Nice catch. Okay.
There's really, the rest of these are just wording changes. Probably the last one of significance that I would like some council guidance on is 12-3-7, number 1. Yep, -1, that one right there. So currently, we put a moratorium on selling pre-need to residents 4 years ago, because as we looked at the rate in which we were selling burial spaces. Now, there's the difference between selling the spaces and the spaces being full or occupied, right? So the rate at which we were selling spaces about 4 years ago, when we looked at that, I'm like, we're going to run out of spaces way too quick to do that. So at the current rate we were selling about 350 spaces a year. We currently have about 3,500 spaces, traditional adult spaces left in the cemetery. If we went back to pre-need, our projections are we would be selling between 300 and 350 spaces, burial right spaces per year, which would put the life at the cemetery at about 10 years. What I'm trying to do is prolong that life of the cemetery longer. Since we've been doing the at-need only, that's dropped to about 100 spaces a year. So I don't want the residents to feel like we're running out of spaces. I mean, we eventually will, but the at-need is just helping us prolong.
You're just being smart with the use of those.
We're trying to be
spaces.
smart and not, and this year we'll be coming up with the memorial garden cremation area that will also hopefully extend the life of the cemetery even that much farther.
Is that for cremations?
Yeah.
I wonder if, I had a citizen call me about this, kind of frustrated because he
I get
called to buy, and,
Yeah.
and he was saying, I've lived here for 20 years, I'm 65, now I want to buy my
I
plot.
get it.
He mentioned an idea, I don't know if it would work or not, but of maybe putting in something where if you have lived in the city for X amount of years, that you can buy one. I don't know if that's a possibility, or if we should even entertain that.
Our experience is people will do everything they can to cheat the system. I mean,
It's hard to prove that.
it's hard to prove that.
Hard to prove. Okay.
Hard to prove that. I'm sympathetic. I do completely understand where they're coming from. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. They want to plan ahead and be able to look at that. Where I'm coming from, my position is, what can I do to prolong this? Yes, we can develop another cemetery. I mean, but there we're looking at that, $2 to $3 million for development costs, and that's just like, the city will never.
I like the way you've got it where if somebody needs one, they can buy two. Because I
Yes.
think the assurance is they want somebody sitting next to them
Yes.
that they've been with their whole life.
And there is kind of how we read this section, that this is, we'll sell them two if there's immediate need for more.
Right.
There is the situation where you have a family that has a loved one lost, but they have a dependent child that they're the caretaker of. In those situations, we would sell them the three total.
Cole-
So we're not completely insensitive.
What's the policy for people that have purchased space and don't use it? How long does the city have to wait before?
So we have to wait 60 years.
60 years from the
of-
time they
Of
purchase.
no activity
Oh,
on
okay.
those spaces. So if a family owns 12 space, if they purchase 12 spaces, but 40 years ago, they used one of them, we have to wait 60 years, so we'd have to wait an additional 20 years.
Is that state law?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a process. I will say that if people want to sell back their spaces, we are actively, if they don't want their space, then we will actively buy them back, because we want the spaces.
They cannot sell their space.
They
to
cannot sell
another
their spaces.
person.
The only people that can buy the spaces back are Kaysville City. They can't go on the open market and
And
sell,
just sell their space.
because the burial right certificate that they have is in their name, specifically for John and Sally, let's say.
Do we, I'm just, how often have we actually been able to exercise that 60 years and say, hey, because maybe families by then forget, so.
They did it probably 20 years ago.
Did they? Okay.
And the word I got from Vance at the time was, never do that again. So,
Very upsetting or just really difficult?
just, it didn't net in any
Oh,
benefit.
okay.
The amount of effort that they had to go through, they have to publicize in so many papers throughout the state, they have to.
It's a very onerous process.
Is it?
You have to
Okay.
find you have to make attempts to find next of kin, you have to publish notice, you have to send certified letters to.
Yes.
And rightfully so,
Yes.
understandably
Right,
so. It's a
for sure.
very onerous
Yeah.
process
Okay.
to do that.
So
Just
we
curious.
just encourage, if you're not if you don't want your space anymore, contact our office, we'll buy them back.
Okay.
You paid for them 50 years ago and paid $1 for them, we buy them back at the current rate, which is $500 a space.
Okay.
So we're actively
Good investment. Okay.
purchasing that. One of the other sections in here that this doesn't quietly, we don't specify this in here right now, but I just want to kind of get the council's take on non-residents. We currently will sell to non-residents at need. Our proposal is that we would stop selling to non-residents and be resident only.
That's hard because some people leave the community to go live in an assisted living
So
center.
if you read the definitions up
So
farther,
that's okay.
that's taken
Okay,
care of.
okay, okay.
If you are a property owner in Kaysville City, you're still considered a resident. If you leave Kaysville City for the purposes of being domiciled in an assisted living facility, you're still classified as a
Even if you
resident.
don't have a property.
Even if you don't have property.
Okay.
If you left Kaysville for the specific reason
Okay.
to go live in assisted living, or you had to go live with those rules or they're previously in the definitions.
Thank you.
What
Okay.
we're talking about as far as non-residents are specifically latent residents. And let me just give you an example. In 2024, we did 164 burials. 82 of those, so 50%, were non-resident.
Really?
Of those 50%, of those 82, 40 of those had to purchase at-need spaces. So if we're looking to prolong the life of the cemetery, does it make sense that it is Kaysville residents? Now, if you're a non-resident and you already have your burial spaces in the cemetery, that doesn't affect, it's just going forward.
Right.
Currently.
That makes sense, right? That's fair.
Currently, Centerville City does not sell to non-residents. Farmington does not sell to non-residents. They're resident only. Layton City doesn't have a city cemetery. They have Lindquist Mortuary. So we kind of get hit with, Fruit Heights, unincorporated Davis County, Layton City. So we're just looking like, what is the council sense on that? We're pretty.
I'm good with that.
I am too. I think that's a fair policy. What do you guys
Okay.
think?
Yeah, I like that policy. I just wanted to clarify a few things that we were kind of chatting about before and that kind of came to my mind that
Yep.
maybe people would want to know about. And that is, so Mutton Hollow, even though it's right up against us because it's unincorporated Davis County, this would exclude that area.
Yes.
Okay, and then also, I know sometimes we partner with Fruit Heights on things. Would this also exclude Fruit Heights?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I hate to be but yeah, I mean, the cemetery's funded by Kaysville City general fund monies for the upkeep and maintenance. Now, non-residents do pay a significantly larger fee, but I don't know that that's. When I look at it, I was just like, this Kaysville City Cemetery, I should be trying to protect it for the Kaysville City residents as long as we possibly can. So, but we'll take it any direction the city council wants.
It's a good
We're
direction.
good with that.
So,
Okay, thank you.
okay. And I think that is all of the other changes are just technical, like we have certain sections in the cemetery that are flat headstone only. That's just because of the size of the space, and we've just now clarified which exactly spaces those are. Yeah. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, I think we're clear on our direction on some
Make a
of those.
motion?
Yeah, make a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we move work item A to an action item with the changes that we've talked about.
I would say that it needs to be worked on.
You want to say it one more time?
I don't want it to come as an action item and have this vehicle thing not worked out. I mean, I think it's going to take some time to actually get the definitions. There's so many things out there.
Then I will retract my
Well,
motion.
what about a friendly amendment? Because I was just thinking a friendly amendment might be that it comes as an action item once the motor vehicle is cleared through email. I don't know. Can we do that? Like, yeah, this looks good? Or do we need to bring it? Okay.
If we're going to get input on it from all of you, we'd need to bring it back.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
I'll
Go
withdraw.
ahead.
I'll withdraw.
All right.
Could I just make a friendly?
Sure.
Just because the cemetery is something that's kind of pressing on us. If that is the only one, could we hold that one out? The motor vehicle, approve everything else and just hold the motor vehicle, that section? I don't know if that's
If the
doable or
council
not.
wanted to entertain that, the council
That's-
could move to
Separate
separate that out, move the other items to an action item, except
Just a thought. We're good either way, so.
Especially if it's time sensitive for that other stuff. I didn't hear very much
It seems like,
discussion on the other stuff, but I definitely think the vehicle thing needs to be worked on. So I would be, if you would make that.
Okay, so let's see if I can do this correctly. So I will move that we move work item A to an action item, except for the vehicle portion, which will come back as a separate work item. Is that good enough?
Second.
okay, Councilmember Oaks.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you, motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, anyone have anything to report?
Yeah, last night we started the ramp process.
Oh, good.
And we had our first meeting with the committee. Most of the committee was there. Just residents have until the 1st of March, the end of February, to submit their items, and then we'll start meeting to decide. So
Curious, okay, so we
we
don't know
haven't seen
yet.
anything
Okay,
yet
all right,
at all. So
good. All right, that sounds great. Anyone else? Councilmember Hunt?
I wasn't able to make it because my kids had swim lessons, but they did Girls and Women in Sports Day, and that's been our favorite event of the year. My girls love that every year, so if you didn't go this year, go next year. It's an awesome event. That's my plug for parks. And the daddy-daughter dances this weekend. What do you have? So at the rec building, what's the day and time? Yeah. Friday and Saturday night this week. And
So
you
look-
can sign up online through the Parks
Parks and
website.
Rec, yeah. Okay, awesome. Anyone else? Okay, just a quick update. As far as the legislature is in session, we're following closely. I really appreciate all of the involvement. We have committee members or council members that are on committees and that are up there quite frequently participating in legislative policy committee meetings and voting on things and expressing the interests of our city and our community. And so really appreciate the engagement there. Jason?
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to make one more plug. I know for Josh, when he received his Public Works Employee of the Year for 2024 from the American Public Works Association, the Utah chapter, which I think is a really big deal. And Josh, he hates that I'm probably saying this, but he's such a great son of Kaysville, I guess. He loves this place. He puts his heart into it, and I think that speaks to so many of our employees. They really love the city to their heart and core, and do such a great job for us. Just a couple of calendar items to remember. We've got as you've referenced, Mayor, February 12th, next Wednesday, is our CRA Town Hall meeting. So looking forward to that. That's from 5:30 to 8:30. And we'll have some city staff there and officials, but also some others from outside the city organization that can help speak to a lot of the questions. We hope to be able to answer the questions. We did put out notices to all of the property owners in the CRA early last week, and including all the residential properties, and we're trying to follow up with them individually to make sure that they saw that notice, and if they can't make the meeting, then they'll have other opportunities to talk with us and hopefully get all their questions answered. And we really want to know
It's from
what they're thinking.
6 to 8.
Oh, is it from 6 to 8? I'm sorry. Thank you, Melinda. And thanks to Melinda for all this, because she's been doing a ton of work to put this together. So thank you, Melinda. Also, next meeting will be February 14th. That's our budget kickoff meeting, Friday morning, 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, right? 8 to 11.
All these times.
And I think that's, and just thank you for all your participation. A couple nights ago at the strategic planning, I got a lot of great comments from the staff. They appreciated the opportunity to engage in conversations, and I think we took a lot of great feedback from the council, so that we appreciate the time you put into that. And so we'll take the time to now kind of revisit all that feedback and come back with proposals on how we can kind of move forward with some of these ideas with strategic goals, and that's all. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, council. Ready for a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
See you later, Don.
You guys are my favorites.
You guys are the best.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.